아이고야. 안녕하세요. 매일매일 운동하기를 추천하고 있는 동탄왕군입니다. 오늘 날씨가 흐리네요. 비는 아직 안 오고 있어요. 뭐 남부지방은 비가 많이 오고 있겠죠? 일단 운동하겠습니다.
Book number 6 was my novel, Talk. This was much more of a commercial play. For most of my books, I donated all the proceeds to charity. In this instance, I went with the hottest political authors of the era, the authors of Game Change and Double Down. That would be Mark Halper and John Heilemann. Finally comes my most recent book, published in 2018, Clowns to the left of me, Jokers to the right, American Life in Columns. Transformation complete. The foreword was written by President Obama's senior advisor, David Axelrod, and the quote on the back jacket comes from the Governor, Arnold Schwarzenegger. Sure, I have changed, and the Republican Party has changed, but I argue that the media business has changed much more. Entertainment masked as news, constant conflict, good guys versus bad guys, and preordained outcomes, just like what? Pro wrestling. Good for ratings, good for revenue, bad for the country.
My name is Emmanuel Ahimieho. I'm the project manager of Bandana Kaba Road. We don't need to import anything that we need on the road. They are all locally available materials. So people from the community, they end up becoming suppliers. I think it has brought life back to the communities. And to be able to lead those people to achieve something worthwhile, something that is of value, I feel extremely proud.
Tonight, the U.S. is #1 in new COVID cases. How did this multi-superpower get the pandemic so? Fareed and his guests try to sort it all out. Fareed Zakaria, GPS, tonight on CNN.
너무 많이. 그래 하자. 디즈니 월드가 57년도에 만든. 우리나라의 57년도는 전쟁이 끝나고. 와, 진짜.
Coronavirus is affecting an entire country, the world. Are we ready? In the beginning of outbreaks like this, nobody knows what's happening. We're determined to keep reporting the story. Because that seems to be what worries me about, because we're ready for it. These are the moments where our humanity really does shine through. That's the hardest part. It's heart-wrenching. Not just
갑자기 마사지가 너무 받고 싶은데.
a global pandemic, an overdue reckoning on race, an economic crisis, and an election right in the middle of it all. The 2020 conventions are coming. Stay with CNN.
Want a daily dose of Fareed and his team? Now you can get it with Fareed's Global Briefing, the newsletter that gives you the best insight and analysis on global affairs. Go to cnn.com/Fareed to sign up.
When I got started 30 years ago at WWDB, personality mattered, not ideology. The headliners were all local and quite a carpool. Irv Homer, Susan Bray, Dominic Quinn, Frank Ford, Bernie Herman. His moniker, what today we would call his brand, was that he was the gentleman of broadcasting. I often guest hosted for him. Let me tell you something. Today, you can get hired with that reputation. These hosts didn't share ideology. There were no mutual talking points. What they had in common was the ability to make the telephones ring. But AM radio was in trouble when I was getting started. FM was growing. AM needed a savior. And it got one. His name, Rush Limbaugh. And the first Gulf War was the backdrop against which things changed. Rush was hired on Sacramento's KFBK. This after the firing of Morton Downey Jr. You remember Downey gesticulating, cursing at guests, chain smoking on set. Downey was canned on radio after he told an ethnic joke on air. Enter Rush Limbaugh. He quickly became the top talk show host in Sacramento. Then he was placed into national syndication in 1988. And Limbaugh's impact on talk radio was transformative. News junkies had NBC, ABC, CBS, the New York Times, the Washington Post, which all leaned left. Limbaugh filled that void by establishing a clubhouse for conservatives. And soon, every major market would have Limbaugh and a stable of his imitators. And when Fox News launched on television in 1996, it adopted the AM talk radio playbook. Later, MSNBC took note of that success, briefly gained viewers by giving Keith Olbermann a Downey-like platform for his diatribes against President George W. Bush. Anybody remember his claim that Bush was, quote, urinating on the Constitution? And now the business model for much of the media was toned down as a version of that which Morton Downey had established. Entertainment masked as news, constant conflict, good guys versus bad guys, and preordained outcomes, just like what? Pro wrestling. Good for ratings, good for revenue, bad for the country. Here's another barometer of change in the last 30 years. According to the Congressional Quarterly, as late as the 1970s, the typical member of one party voted with his or her party colleagues just over 60% of the time. In fact, my favorite example is a Texas congressman by the name of George Herbert Walker Bush. Papa Bush was in Congress, and he overlapped the administrations of Presidents Lyndon Johnson and Richard Nixon. Well, guess what? Congressman Bush voted with the Democratic Johnson administration about as often as he voted with the Republican Nixon administration. And that was typical then. But by 2010, the typical member of Congress voting with party members 90% of the time. Look, I'm not blaming polarization on just the media. Other factors have driven the divide. They include a lack of campaign finance reform. That causes nonstop fundraising. They don't have any time to socialize with one another. Hyperpartisan districts are an issue. The spread of politically homogeneous communities are a problem. We're self-sorting. Closed primaries are an issue. I'll tell you what else is an issue. Social media. The beer muscles that come from the anonymity online, that has fueled incivility and polarization. But mostly I see a causal connection between the media influence and polarization. Gridlock is what you get when Washington takes its cues from those with microphones and not the vast majority of the people. When politicians take their cues from the pro wrestling of the modern era, the nation suffers. Our climate won't improve until we do something about that. And in order for that to happen, more people need to change the channel. That, more than anything else, is what I wish I knew before I started talking.
All new Inside Africa. Unlocking the mysteries behind the continent you thought you knew. As Cape Town deals with the pandemic, local photographers capture the city through a new lens.
It was an intimidatingly quiet city. I was seeing through fresh eyes and a scary new context.
Inside Africa, today, only on CNN, in association with Zenith Bank.
As the call for racial justice intensifies in the wake of George Floyd's death, some corporations are reassessing their operations and pledging change.
Happy Aunt Jemima, famous for her secret recipes, pancakes, waffles, and buckwheat.
In the food sector, Quaker Oats will retire the Aunt Jemima brand after 130 years and will donate $5 million over 5 years to support the Black community.
And remember, when you serve Aunt Jemima, pancake days is happy days.
Mars has pledged to change its Uncle Ben's brand in acknowledgement of its derogatory racial undertone. And B&G Foods, maker of cream of wheat hot cereal, is conducting a complete packaging review. For more information on how you can help fight racism and injustice, go to cnn.com/impact.
I'm Julia Chatterley, host of CNN's First Move. I speak with newsmakers.
Do you think we're still in a bull market?
We need the world to keep pace with technology.
Risk takers.
What about the prospect of an IPO, or is it too soon?
And the ultimate game changers.
How do you find valuable assets to buy?
The game changes constantly.
Make CNN your first move.
First Move with Julia Chatterley, weeknights on CNN.
Business is all about making connections. But some connections
아이고야 머리 아파라.
with a CNN partner hotel, the world is always at your fingertips. CNN partner hotels, connected to your world.
Welcome to the lead. I'm Jake Tapper. We're going to begin with the politics lead, and one of the biggest bombshells today, the straight talk you need. That seems to be, to me, completely contradicting from your man in Washington. It's all food for thought when you and the public are trying to decide who to trust, who won't back down. We're getting a new look at the headwinds that congressional Republicans already are facing. A monumental day in our politics.
The Lead with Jake Tapper, Tuesday to Saturday on CNN.
I'm Ross Foster at the Gorfoss Waterfall in Iceland, and this is CNN.
Coronavirus. To get daily news updates in your inbox, sign up for the CNN newsletter. Coronavirus. Fact versus fiction.
week, African Voices will look at some of the best moments recently featured on the show. Actor and comedian Yvonne Orji talks to me about the pressures of meeting her Nigerian parents' expectations, and see how a Nigerian microbiologist develops a farming facility in his neighboring country, Benin. But first, let's visit Cameroon, where one of the world's top football scorers is striking towards new goals for his community.
Through football, I bring about peace, love, and more peace.
Et plus de paix. Ok, c'est ça. C'est qui me motive?
What motivates me is the desire to change things. And since there is always something to change, each time there is a new challenge for me.
I am Samuel Eto'o. I am a chain maker.
Douala, Cameroon's largest city. It was here that Eto'o spent his formative teenage years.
I am in love with this town.
Located outside of the city center, the neighborhood of New Belle, where Eto'o grew up. It has a reputation as a dangerous place and is associated with a large prison located here.
Vous savez, quand vous entrez à Nouvelle,
You know, when you enter New Belle and you see all the young people who are working hard with one dream, to give meaning to their lives.
vous vous dites la vie est très très injuste.
You think life is very, very unfair.
La mienne pendant une longue période.
And mine was for a long period. I say again, I thank God because He gave me the possibility to show what I was capable of, what I could do, and then gave this opportunity, which I seized and made me who I am today.
This neighborhood is about to have a very famous visitor. It doesn't take long for a crowd to form, stopping whatever they're doing to meet their hometown turned global superstar. Even if it means helping out of the shower.
D'ici que je suis parti.
It is from here that I left directly to Real Madrid.
Pour le Real Madrid.
Directly from here.
D'ici. C'est ici que ma vie a changé.
This is where my life changed. If we go a little further, we will see that the central prison is nearby. It seemed more likely that I would end up in that prison.
Eto'o avoided the prison and would go on to become a legend on the football pitch. The Olympic gold medalist was crowned African Player of the Year 4 times during his career. Best known for his time as a striker with Spanish giants Barcelona, he remains one of the club's top scorers.
C'est un don de Dieu.
It is a gift of God. I ask myself why God chose me and not the other. But often there are stars that appear like that, and then you become someone that people appreciate beyond borders.
Last year, Eto'o retired after more than 2 decades on the field. Retirement also gives him more time to reconnect to the place that shaped him.
Il y avait beaucoup d'émotions parce que
There was a lot of emotion for me because I met people I have not seen for 10, 12 years. Not because I do not want to see them, but because of who I have become.
Tout d'abord, il n'est pas.
First of all, it is not easy to always have people cheering you.
L'immense chance que j'ai.
The good fortune that I have is that everywhere I go, people have the feeling that I belong to them.
Tiens, les gens sortent massivement.
People come out massively because I bring a feeling of happiness, hope. And I hope God Almighty still allows me to share that feeling with them.
For many here, just having Eto'o in their presence is rewarding enough. His successes range from an Olympic gold medal to playing with some of the world's best footballers. But Samuel Eto'o says his greatest achievement is how far he has come.
L'Africain qui est parti de nulle part et qui est arrivé là. C'est ma plus grande.
The African who went from nowhere to the top.
That is my greatest pride. Because the success rate for an African in this world is 0.0001%. And from where I started, to get to the point where you are considered one of the biggest in your domain, I tell myself I can walk head held high because I came a long way to get here, and I made it.
Ato works to make it easier for the next generation of footballers to succeed. Through a football academy, he funded training and development for many of Cameroon's promising young footballers.
I was not born to a wealthy family, so it was often difficult to come back from training and find a meal ready to help me recuperate. Since I joined the academy, I no longer have this problem. So now I'm able to focus solely on football, work, and school.
You can imagine what is going on in the heads of these children. The dreams of success. In fact, this is me. 25 years ago, I was there like them with this dream. This desire to succeed. Each time we left Douala to come here, there was some positive energy, a desire to make our dreams reality. Which was just amazing. What I can be today is a mentor. The journey they are about to do, with a lot of luck, we did. So
그만하겠습니다.
give advice
못하겠다.
and be beside them, because at this age there are a lot of doubts. At certain periods of their career, there would